Amongst 100 men, there may be none fit for the Adeptus Astartes. Amongst 100 Space Marines, there may be one fit for the Deathwatch.
Welcome Battle Brothers and lore enthusiasts. Today, I'll deep dive into the shadowy and elite world of the Deathwatch. In this video, we'll uncover the origins, the purpose, and the heroism of this legendary chapter. The Deathwatch is unlike any other chapter in the Imperium of Man. Formed in response to the direst xenos threat that humanity faces, their mission are not just battles, but surgical strikes aimed at the heart of alien incursions. We'll explore the founding moments, the pivotal battles that shape them, and the rigorous trials every Deathwatch Marine endures, from the grim fortresses where they train to the desperate conflicts that define their legacy. You'll learn why these warriors are considered the elite of the elite. We don't have an exact date for the creation of the chapter, but we do know they originate in the Age of Rebirth of the Imperium. Now, the Age of Rebirth was a strange time in the Imperium. Following the defeat of Horus Heresy, the Imperium knew relative peace from chaos, with many of their forces destroyed or routed into the Eye of Terror. The only true chaos threats were raids and skirmishes on the right outskirts of Imperium territory. However, with the Imperium losing a lot of its strength in comparison to its former self during the Great Crusade, a lot of xenos threats that had been quelled by the Primarchs and the Imperial army began to re-emerge to threaten humankind once again. The greatest of these threats was a giant greenskin war that led to a colossal war with the Imperium known as the War of the Beast. The Orcs attacked with such numbers and ferocity that it threatened the throne world of Terror itself, and actually laid siege to the human homeworld. The War of the Beast is a long and vicious ordeal that nearly saw the Imperium collapse a second time. I'll be covering this in another video that will go into a lot more detail, so don't worry if you don't think I've done it justice in that. During the War of the Beast, the chapter master of the Imperial Fists, Corland, who was also the Lord Commander of the Imperium at this point, saw the need for experienced and well-trained teams of Astartes who would make surgical strikes against the approaching Greenskins. These missions ranged from assassination missions, sabotage, raids, ambushes, and a variety of different scenarios. Taking this idea to High Lords of Terror, Corland's concept was met with skepticism at first, but the Imperium was in desperate state, and in a rare circumstance of cohesion, the High Lords of Terror agreed to Corland's suggestion. The Greenskin invasion was led by a fearsome leader known as a Croak, probably the last in existence. Croaks were physically and mentally advanced orcs, utilising power armour and towering above even the greatest orc warboss. The invasion began in a world called Ulanor, the Beast's capital world. In an attempt to stop the impending invasion, the Imperium launched a preemptive strike composing of many Space Marine chapters. These chapters suffered horrendous casualties, with some being whittled down to one or two singular Space Marines. These survivors, harbouring a particular hatred for the Greenskin xenos, were considered the perfect recruits for these new units, and thus the foundation of the Deathwatch began to form. The High Lords of Terror still harboured many worries about this new fledgling elite Space Marine chapter, wary that it was providing a lethal weapon for the Lord Commander to wield. To dissuade these doubts, Corland came to an agreement with the Inquisition, and these new elite Space Marines would fall under the jurisdiction of the newly formed Ordo Xenos Inquisition entity. But to preserve the chapter format, the Space Marines would still be led by a chapter master. The Ordo Xenos, seeing how the Grey Knights were such an effective tool for the Ordo Malleus, adopted the Space Marines into the core of the Ordo Xenos, utilising the new chapter to serve as their chamber militant, their military arm of the Inquisitorial Department, naming them the Deathwatch. In theme with a lot of the backstory of Warhammer 40k, there are conflicting accounts in whether this was the true origin of the Deathwatch. Some records do argue against this founding, claiming the Deathwatch origins occurred centuries before. According to these historical records, a conclave of inquisitorial lords convened to discuss the ever-emerging threat of the xenos that were appearing in the wake of the Horus Heresy. Many different strategies was discussed in this gathering, alliances with the Eldari, a renewed great crusade to purge the xenos from the galaxy, and threats from other galaxies were also discussed. Eventually, a strategy was formulated, and the Inquisitors called for an audience with all chapter masters of the Adeptus Astartes. It is not recorded which chapters attended. There were representatives from at least half of Space Marine chapters. The Inquisition presented the prophecy to the chapter masters, explaining how even if the arch enemy was finally defeated, the Imperium was still under ever threat of Xenos invasion. Together, the Inquisition and the chapter masters discussed this threat, and through much consideration and debate, the Inquisition and Astartes declared an oath together. A new Space Marine chapter would be formed, consisting of Astartes with high aptitude and plentiful experience in battling Xenos, named the Deathwatch. As with many of these things, it's honestly up to you to decide what you would like to believe, and remember, the philosophy of every person studying the law of Warhammer 40k should follow. Everything is canon, but not everything is the truth. From this point onwards, the Deathwatch would stand vigil on the borders of the Imperium, guarding the Emperor's realm from the foul Xenos, battling these vile creatures to the darkest and remote reaches of the galaxy. To join the Deathwatch is a great honour for any Astartes, for many consider them the elite of the elite. Only the most talented and experienced veterans are inducted into the chapter, meaning each kill team boasts an incredible amount of experience. The chapter is organised into small companies, but these companies don't hail from a single world or sector. They are intentionally mixed from the chapters who pay a tithe of their heroes to the Orders of Xenos. The chapter masters of these Astartes chapters are ever on the lookout for battle brothers who have shown a great aptitude in battling alien threats through different campaigns. Once a potential battle brother has shown great skill in alien hunting, he then has to be vouched for by a number of other Astartes. His captain will vouch for his skill in combat, his apothecary will vouch for his physical health and athletic ability. Remember, this isn't athletic ability in regards to human standards. These Astartes will have to be physically stronger, quicker, and more agile than any other Astartes. And finally, the Astartes chapter will have to attest to his strength of soul. When all are in agreement, the destiny of the Astartes has been changed. He will undertake a departure ceremony where he is thanked and honoured personally by the chapter master and his brothers. However, this ceremony can change from chapter to chapter. These ceremonies tend to be sad and solemn farewells, as their power armour's colour is stripped and replaced with a jet black. The Deathwatch aspirant will leave his rank behind, and most likely will never see his brothers again. Upon arriving to one of the fortresses or worlds, the Astartes will undergo an incredibly hard and punishing training trial, where the Astartes will be pushed to and beyond their limits. Through mental and physical conditioning, the aspirant's mind is filled with every detail needed to be known in the battle against any Xenos creature. Once you have completed their trials, the reborn Deathwatch Marine will be assigned to a kill team squad. When these squads are formed, intense rivalries and conflicts often developed, with Astartes disagreeing over battle doctrine and insights into the arts of war. However, this is often slightly encouraged by the Deathwatch officers, as in conflict and the heat of adversity, these kill teams often merge their ideologies and doctrines, forging a new combat strategy. On some rare occasions, Deathwatch Astartes, who have really honoured themselves with great deeds, can return to their chapters if the Watchmaster or Inquisitors leading the detachment deems their tasks are wholly completed. In order to continue the defence of the Imperium, the chapter utilises watch fortresses and watch outposts. These are incredibly interesting aspects of the Deathwatch. Inquisitor Ishmael has a rather interesting quote on the watch fortresses. Every watch fortress is a light in the darkness, a blazing watchfire that drives back the shadows in which the Xenos lurks. Without their illumination, the Emperor's worlds would be swallowed up one by one, bound into shrouds of endless night, stitched closed by alien claws. Watch fortresses are heavily fortified space stations, sovereign to themselves and ruled by a Space Marine officer with the rank of Watch Commander. These Watch Commanders have the full authority of the Inquisition. The Watch fortresses are usually positioned over a specific area of the Imperium, but specific stations can be erected to watch over specific areas that are heavily targeted by xenos. With the coming of Era Indomitors and the Great Rift tearing the galaxy asunder, these Watch fortresses continue their vigil, even those cut off in the Imperium Nihilus. These Watch fortresses do come in many shapes and sizes. Some smaller defence platforms, while others can be built on huge asteroids, with some of the largest taking over an entire planet. Although the layouts, shapes and sizes of fortresses often vary, the overall structure of the Space Marines and the fortresses stay very rigid. In support of the Watch Commander, they are members of the Strategium, composed of librarians, apothecaries, chaplains, dreadnoughts, tech marines, watch captains and lieutenants. The Strategium, alongside supporting the Watch Commander, provide tactical counsel and support to the 4 kill teams which together combine into the Watch Company. Each Watch Company is led by a Watch Captain and his 2 subordinate Watch Lieutenants. Watch Companies usually comprise of no larger a number of 50 Space Marines. Talassa Prime, the headquarters and primary training world of the Deathwatch, is an example of an entire world comprising of a Deathwatch fortress. The planet is situated inside the borders of Ultramar and boasts a giant Ordo Xenos fortress nearly encompassing the entire planet. This is where many of the kill teams are brought once recruited, and then further specialised into particular alien hunting units. Since the Tyranid Hive fleet invasions of Ultramar, the world has produced a high amount of Tyranid specialised kill teams, with veterans from the chapters of the Ultramarines, Lamenters, and the Sires of the Emperor joining the Deathwatch. The world is ruled not by a Watch Commander, but a Watch Master named Mordelay, a grim and efficient Astartes. Each fortress maintains 5 Watch Companies comprising of 4 kill teams specialised in different tactics and equipment, allowing each fortress to react quickly to a variety of threats. The Deathwatch were also quick to induct the Primaris Space Marines into their ranks through the Fortis, Indomitor and Spectrus kill teams. With the birth of the Great Rift, it has become harder and harder for veteran Space Marines selected for Deathwatch duty to make the journey to Talassa Prime, resulting in the fortress of Praefects Venatoris and Fort Excalibris now sharing responsibility of recruitment and training of new Deathwatch kill teams in the realm of the Dark Imperium. A personal favourite Watch fortress of mine is Damaroth, a giant spaceborne superstructure in the form of a giant ring. These rings were not built by humanity, and some Imperial scholars hint that they even predate humanity, but of the rings manufacturers, no trace remains. 6 of these rings have been found by the Imperium, and each one has been claimed by the Deathwatch and the Ordo Xenos. The Damaroth ring functions as the Watch fortress at the centre of the Centaurus arm, being a central place for training, repair, resupply, and even a dock for capital class ships. As a Halo fan, the idea of these alien hunting Astartes running operations out of a giant Halo ring really excites me. When the Deathwatch want to have a presence in an area but don't require the sheer strength of a Watch fortress, the chapter establishes a Watch station. Similar to Watch fortresses, Watch stations vary massively in size and in layout and character. Some are giant fortresses with sky-high walls and numerous defence turrets. Some are a ramshackle facility of hastily built buildings with scavenged parts. The variety is really insane and does give terrain designers a lot of ideas to play with. Each station functions as a sort of listening post with the most advanced sensors the Imperium has to offer. These include powerful witch sight augers that not only scour the Imperium for communications and sensor readings, but but also the warp. These vast banks of information are then transported to the Watch Fortresses through tiny warp-capable vessels known as Dark Hunters. This then gives each Watch Fortress an incredible insight into each sector, forewarning them of xenos threats. These watch stations also contain an armoury of weapons, ammunition and equipment stood ready to be used by any kill team operating within the watch station's area. What is probably the most interesting thing about watch stations is they are not commonly manned by Astartes. For the most part, the watch stations are cared for by servitors and other automatons provided by the machine cult of Mars. Due to the valuable equipment and data these watch stations provide, they are often heavily fortified by automated defences like turrets, mines, traps, and even armed servitors. As I previously mentioned, the recruiting system of the Deathwatch does pose a set of issues that the watch commanders inevitably have to deal with. When an aspirant is recruited into a Space Marine chapter, they are moulded, shaped, and indoctrinated with the beliefs and culture of said chapter, strongly ingraining the core beliefs of their Primarch and their chapter lore, helping with the cohesion of their Space Marines. These beliefs are radically kept to, and the challenge of any of these beliefs will be met in the best of circumstances with outrage, and in the worst, a quick bolt around to the challenger's cranium. This isn't usually an issue though, as 99% of any Space Marine social interaction will be with their battle brothers or chapter serfs. However, when a Marine is set to join the ranks of the Deathwatch, the culture shock is astronomical. This will cause a huge amount of issues in itself, but with the Space Marine chapters near autonomously waging war for the past 10,000 years, relationships and rivalries have been forged between Space Marine chapters, with a lot of these rivalries ending in bloodshed and battle. This often causes a great degree of mistrust between the Deathwatch battle brothers in a singular kill team. For those who are a bit fresher to the lore of Warhammer 40k, there are many fierce rivalries between Space Marine chapters due to past mistakes and issues. An example of this would be the White Scars and the Raven Guard, who have a dark rivalry that stems back thousands of years to the Horus Heresy, where both chapters fail to help each other in times of need. This problem does tend to organically sort itself out, without much direct action needed by Deathwatch officers and commanders, with the majority of new recruits putting their sacred duty to the Emperor and Imperium before their personal feelings. Recruits who struggle to adapt in these situations are often called in battle by foul xenos, as they are unable to act as cohesively with their kill team. However, those Marines that prove to have exceptional combat prowess are often retrained as a kill Marine for single covert actions. We'll get into kill Marines in a little bit. The nature of a Deathwatch mission, in conjunction with their previously mentioned opposing doctrines of Space Marine chapters, can make it hard to clearly define an overall combat doctrine for the Deathwatch. Overall, these strategies used by the kill teams vary significantly, depending on the scenario they found themselves in. This, alongside their close ties with the Inquisition, has resulted in the Deathwatch being armed with some of the best equipment available to Astartes in the Imperium. From heavy bolted gyro suspensors and M40 targeters to special ammo and weapons, the kill teams use their advanced equipment to gain combat superiority when battling foes. The Deathwatch also incorporate their vast knowledge of xenos into their battle strategy, with each recruit having extensive background knowledge of their biology, tactics, and culture of alien enemies. The kill teams understand where their efforts will be most effective. Whether this is assassinating a green-skinned leader, luring Tau fire warriors into close-range combat, or requisitioning Imperial Guard troops to outnumber Eldari Corsairs, the Deathwatch adapt to fit the scenario they find themselves in. In the most drastic of circumstances, the Deathwatch have Inquisition authorization to use xenos weaponry and technology to combat their enemies. As some watch commanders have noted that in some situations you have to fight fire with fire. However, despite all this, the Deathwatch only have one official combat doctrine. it is that each brother must maximise his own effectiveness in the field. This philosophy of adaptability has found itself adopted throughout the ranks of the Deathwatch. Already equipped with the best armaments and relics possessed by the Imperium, the Watch Commanders encourage their tech priests and forge masters re-evaluate their equipment and technology with every war, fine-tune it to have the perfect loadout when combating xenos threats. Each weapon wielded by the Deathwatch Marine has been painstakingly customised for specific xenos, down to each bolt or shell being imbued with a particular material to be effective. There are no rigid loadout schemes for each kill team, like we see in Imperial Guard squads or Codex compliant Astartes. It isn't uncommon for each Marine in the kill team to have completely different loadouts, with some rare cases having a single member of a squad utilising jump packs or assault bikes, while the other brothers go on foot. When I do these overview videos, I always like to cover some notable characters, and the Deathwatch have some great heroes to talk about. Asar Warfist, who had become the first Watch Commander of the Deathwatch, originally was the Wolf Lord of the Space Wolves. It was during the mid-32nd millennium, when the War of the Beast descended upon the Imperium, that Asar Warfist would join the Deathwatch. In the first stages of the war, Asar gained great glory in two battles. Firstly, he led his chapter in a great defence of a star system close to the Eye of Terror, and eventually led the defence of Fabric, a giant industrial moon. Showing great skill in dealing with the xenos, Asar Warfist was commanded to travel to Terra. He was then assigned by the Lord Commander in the first strike force that would become the Deathwatch. He would then take part in the first invasion of the Orc-War's origin world of Ulana Prime. He was then instrumental in the eventual destruction of the Orc War Moon that directly threatened Terra. Then shortly before the second invasion of Ulana, Lord Commander Corland anointed Asar as the chapter master of the Deathwatch. Asar and Corland would eventually fight side by side in the invasion, facing down the second Croc-sized greenskin leader, resulting in Corland's death. In the time after the War of the Beast, Asar slowly began to spread the Deathwatch wider and create a more decentralised structure, allowing the kill team to function more independently. The second notable character we're going to talk about is Watch Captain Banon. Originally hailing from the Imperial Fists, serving as a captain, Banon quickly rose through the ranks of the Deathwatch, where he found himself in command of a Deathwatch kill team that was summoned by Lord Inquisitor Cryptman in 999 M41. Yes, that Cryptman. Cryptman utilised the Deathwatch kill team in his campaign against High Fleet Leviathan. When a Tyranid lictor appeared in the Imperial city of Erebus, the Deathwatch captain was commanded by the Inquisitor to bring the lictor in alive, in which Banon did relatively quickly and easily. Just to really emphasise the titanic task that was, a lictor is an incredibly deadly Tyranid warrior which is extremely stealthy and notoriously hard to track down. After this deadly errand, Watch Captain Banon then led his team on a mission to recharge a defence laser far behind Tyranid territory. Fighting off a horde of Tyranid bioforms, the kill team charged up the laser and opened fire on a Tyranid hive ship, in conjunction with an ultramarine strike. When evacuating the position via Thunderhawk gunship, Banon was the last to be extracted. As he was being lifted aboard by a rappel cable, a Tyranid bioform seized his leg. Not wanting to bring his brothers down with him, the watch captain cut his line and, armed only with his cambot knife, attacked the monstrous bioform, dying a true Deathwatch hero's death. The majority of ranks seen inside the Deathwatch are similar to Codex compliant chapters, however, with some additional duties. I've just cherry picked some of the more interesting ones to me, as we don't have time to go through all of them. I would advise reading the wiki on these, as they are really cool. The Deathwatch Apothecary occupy a trusted position by all of the chapters that offer Marines to the Deathwatch, as they are entrusted in the reclamation of multiple chapters' gene seed in the event a Marine falls in battle. They are entrusted with any secret knowledge of certain chapter mutations, in which the chapter would not want becoming public knowledge in the wider Imperium. The Apothecary also must keep vigilant against any alien corruption or contamination that may affect the Deathwatch Marine. A Deathwatch Assault Marine role is identical to other Assault Marine roles, usually brandishing a pistol in one hand with a melee weapon in the other. They charge headfirst into combat, overwhelming their enemies with brutal ferocity. The only true difference is that the Codex states these Marines have mastered all combat roles in an Astartes squad, but has found that they're most skilled in close quarters. A rank that is unseen in other chapters is the Deathwatch Black Shield. A Black Shield is an Astartes who has forsaken their chapter, who had obscured their heraldry and petitioned a watch commander for admittance into the Deathwatch. The Black Shield will reveal the bare bones on why he wants to leave his company behind and become a member of the Deathwatch. If the watch commander considers the Astartes worthy, he will then admit him into the recruitment cycle. Reasons for a Marine to do this is varied. Oftentimes, it is when they find themselves the sole surviving member of a chapter. Other Black Shields have joined when their battle brothers have turned heretic and forsaken the ways of the Emperor, opting to serve as a Black Shield in a feeble attempt to redeem his brother's wrongs through his service. On a rare occasion, an Astartes that had turned to renegade or turned to chaos, but then returned to the Emperor's light, may be accepted as a Black Shield in penance. Forcing an Astartes to become a Black Shield is also used by some chapters as a severe punishment, when an Astartes should be executed, but their chapter master doesn't want to waste an invaluable asset an Astartes is. Black Shields often shun the company of other Space Marines and are regarded as an ill omen by other Deathwatch Astartes. Deathwatch Champions are the mightiest xenos hunters in the Imperium. A Marine is usually promoted to Champion after a great feat against a xenos foe. These Astartes are near perfect in battle against xenos, inspiring their brothers and instilling fear in their enemies. Similar to Apothecaries, a chaplain's role in the Deathwatch becomes even more difficult due to the need to know the lore and teachings of the Primarchs of many chapters to be able to effectively counsel battle brothers of different origins. Additionally, many chaplains are needed to help Astartes who miss and yearn for the more ordered and rigid way of life, rather than the ever fluid and moving Deathwatch kill teams. The Deathwatch Tech Marines and Forge Masters function similarly to their Codex compliant counterparts. However, in rare circumstances, some Inquisitors and Watch Commanders deem it necessary to use Xenos tech on their enemies. Tech Marines and Forge Masters will analyse and ensure the Xeno tech is capable and not the victim of sabotage, rendering it unsafe to use. A Deathwatch Keeper is a veteran and extremely skilled warrior, boasting of many years of service in the Deathwatch. Armed with ceremonial weaponry of the likes of two-handed chainswords, las lances and power glaives, these are also armoured in ancient power armour from the days of the Great Crusade. These brothers solely guard forbidden places or fortresses and stand watch over captured dangerous rare xenos. A Deathwatch Kill Marine is an interesting concept. Not every xenos threat requires the undertaking of a kill team. Kill Marines are trained to act as a lone operative. A Deathwatch Kill Marine would usually be dispatched to smaller xenos threats that can be quelled by a direct strike, or when there isn't enough information on an alien threat to commit a full kill team, so a Kill Marine is sent to gather further information. Kill Marines do often forego power armour, opting for more stealthier equipment. Now there is just one last topic I'd like to cover before I end this episode. To me, this is one of the more interesting bits of lore around the Deathwatch, and these are their kill ships. Kill ships are fully automated drone vessels which are guided by the most advanced machine spirits the Imperium and the Mechanicum have to offer. They use an array of Golden Age tech like cloaking devices and scanning arrays to enter star systems entirely undetected, slipping past sensors, defence platforms and patrolling voidcraft unseen, and eventually entering orbit of a Xenos world. The kill ship will then unleash a horrifying payload of mass destruction and then slingshotting back out to the cosmos completely unseen. And to those who may be putting two and two together, yes, this is basically an automated exterminatus. Once detonated, all life on the planet will be completely killed. Each Deathwatch fortress holds dozens of these ships, and when activated, we'll send 5 or 6 of these ships out to ensure complete success. Thanks for joining me today, guys. I just wanted to say a quick thank you to everyone. I've just recently hit 200 subscribers, and it honestly really makes me emotional, and it means the world to me that so many people are enjoying this content. I honestly thought I'd be getting 2 or 3 views an episode of making this for myself, and to see so many people just enjoying this, coming back for it, it honestly means the world to me. So thank you so much for all the subscriptions, the likes, the comments, the kind messages. Thank you so much. Let me know what you want to see in the next video, guys. I'll be doing another poll with a few different options, but if you do want to see something in particular, please do leave a comment below and I will make a video on it. Don't forget to like and subscribe.